Hello everyone, welcome to the daily newspaper analysis brought by Shankar IAS Academy, 11th December 2024. Displayed here are the list of articles that we will be discussing today. The first article, why sender wants states to make snakebite notifiable disease. The article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express. In this article, we will discuss what is meant by a notifiable disease and why a disease is called a notifiable disease, and why the central government is urging the state governments to declare snakebite as a notifiable disease. And then we will also discuss a national action plan related to snakebite. And the second article, the president's power to issue pardon in the United States and in India. This article is also taken from the newspaper Indian Express. This is talking about the difference between the United States president and the Indian president in the matter regarding clemency. And in this article, we will be discussing various provisions related to the pardoning and different types of pardoning, and what is the difference between United States president and the Indian president. The third article, number of inoperative accounts under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. We all know Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, a milestone scheme to ensure financial inclusion in India. But recently we found that nearly 11 crore accounts opened under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is remaining inactive. So in this background, we will be discussing the basics and the key features regarding the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Coming to the fourth article, PM POSHAN center to bear additional cost of 400 crore due to food inflation. Followed by the inflation index of the Labour Bureau, the government has announced an addition of 400 crore to the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme. We know that Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme ensures nutrition, particularly focusing on children. And but due to the food inflation, the government has announced this addition of 400 crore. And in this topic, we will be discussing the basics about the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme, its benefits, eligibility, and how it is transforming, our efforts to ensure nutrition security. Without much delay, let's get into our newspaper discussion. Why sender wants states to make snakebite a notifiable disease? We know whenever we talk about snakes or reptiles, the first country that comes to our mind will be either Brazil or Australia, right? Because Brazil has the largest snake population according to the World Population Review, and Australia has the largest reptile population in the world. That means nearly 1,000 plus reptile species are recorded in Australia. But in India, we have nearly 300 plus snake population, and according to the the Indian Million Death Study 2020, it is a study conducted under the collaboration of Indian Registrar General and ICMR and various other institutions from national and international level. And this study is focusing on two matters, that is age specific death and cause specific death. It is focusing on the Asian and the African continents. So according to this study, they found that in India, every year nearly 2 million to 3 million snakebite cases are recorded, and it is contributing to nearly 58,000 plus fatalities every year. So this makes the snakebite a biggest concern to the Indian public health. So considering this background, the central government has urged the state governments to declare snakebite as a notifiable disease. So now we will ask a question, what is meant by this notifiable disease? Notifiable disease refers to disease which requires mandatory reporting to the government authorities by the health workers. So why a disease will be considered as a notifiable disease, or how a disease will be considered as a notifiable disease? Based on three factors. If that disease is occurring frequently in a particular region, for example, if the infection is recording 2 to 3 times per month in a particular region, then that should be reported to the government. Then it will become a notifiable disease. If that disease or the infection is posing a great threat to the public health, or it is highly contagious, then that disease also will be considered as a notifiable disease. And mostly, for example, tuberculosis, HIV, hepatitis A, B, C, and E, at the same time malaria, measles, these kind of diseases are mostly considered as notifiable disease, which means whenever if these these diseases or infection are identified in a place, then the health workers has to mandatorily report the government. So I hope now you understood what is meant by a notifiable disease, and why the snake bites are considered as a disease. Whether the snake bites are a disease, of course it's not, but it can pose a great threat to the public health, and it also have great impact on the individual health, long-term impact. For example, the snake bites are acute medical emergencies, which means if a person got attacked by a snake, then he has to be rushed to hospital as soon as possible. And the snake bites can also lead to paralysis, respiratory failure, internal bleeding, and organ damage. For example, in India we have a snake called Indian Russell Swiper. So once the snake bites you, then you should be you will be experiencing blood vision, at the same time spontaneous hemorrhage, which means internal bleeding. And if you left untreated, then the person will be dead within 14 days. And at the same time, the snake bite can also lead to long term disabilities in the people. For example, if the certain snakes and their venom can even damage your nerve system and the tissue of your body, in such cases that part will be removed through amputation. And the snake bite also requires timely treatment to reduce the severity and even prevent the death. Like I mentioned, in the case of Indian Russell's viper, you should be admitted to the hospital as soon as possible to prevent the death. And what is the significance of making snake bites notifiable? First of all, we can get the accurate data regarding the snake bite accidents in a particular region. So therefore, we can identify high risk zone. For example, in the case of India, the agrarian states with high population density are considered as high risk zone for snake bites, especially the states of Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, like that. And then we can go for targeted intervention. For example, imagine that if the snakes are coming to the cities, which means their habitat in another region got affected. So we can plan. The snakes also has their own environmental function. Therefore, we cannot eliminate snakes. Instead of that, we have to take some sustainable measures, which keeps the human safe, at the same time the snake population also safe. And then we can improve the preventive methods, treatment, and resource allocation. For example, like I mentioned, the agrarian states are highly vulnerable to the snake bite related incidents. Then we can improve the health infrastructure in that high risk zone. Then we can deploy more anti venom to that particular region. Then we can deploy more medical staff to that particular region. And then we can take sustainable measures to protect the snakes as well as the humans. Coming to the snake bite epidemiology in India, mostly in the case of India, big four are responsible for most of the fatalities. The first one is Indian cobra, and second one is common rat, and third I mentioned Russell's viper, and then we have the saw-scaled viper. And we have commercial anti-venom to save the people, but unfortunately still it is only 80% efficient. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, the India, we have nearly 310 plus snake population, and out of this 66 are considered as highly venomous and 42 are considered as mildly venomous. And now we will come to the second part of this article, that is the National Action Plan for Prevention and Control of Snakebite Envenoming. And this plan was launched by the government of India. The objective of this plan is to reduce the snakebite death by 50% by 2030. And what are the strategies adopted under this scheme? First one is identifying the high risk zone, which means high cases are reported in a particular region, then that region will be considered as high risk zone. And next is, like I mentioned, improving the healthcare access. For example, deploying more staff, ensuring that proper medications or the first aid are available in that region, and then increasing public awareness. This is very important, especially in the case of India, because even in the agrarian societies, the people have a tendency to go to the local shamans if there is any snake bite. It's still happening in India. So we have to generate awareness. Yes, the traditional medicines are they are useful, but it is not universally applicable. You cannot use the same medicine for all snake venom. It is not possible. And then capacity building, surveillance and monitoring of high risk zone, and research and development. That means developing a universal venom to treat all kind of snake bite, or developing universal first aid to save the people. So these kind of objectives are coming under this research and development. So in this article we discussed what is the importance of declaring snakebite as a notifiable disease, and then we also discussed this plan, that is National Action Plan for Prevention of Snakebite Envenoming. So based on this understanding, try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which organization is responsible for implementing National Action Plan for Prevention and Prevention of Snakebite Envenoming in India? Option A, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Option B, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Option C, Indian Council of Medical Research. And option D, National Disaster Management Authority. So from our discussion itself, we can guess the answer is option B, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. This ministry is responsible for the implementation of the National Action Plan for Prevention of Snakebite Envenoming, which aims to prevent which aims to reduce the fatalities, snakebite fatalities to 50% by 2030. Let's check the answer. Yes, the answer is option B. So now we will move to the next article. The President's power to issue pardon in the United States and in India. The Indian Express article is talking about the difference between the pardoning power of United States President and the Indian President. We know that under Article 2, Section 2 of and Subclause 1 of the United States Constitution, the President can give a pardon to the convicts under the federal law. Like that, in the case of India, under Article 72 of the Indian Constitution, the President of India can also give a pardon to the convicts under the Sender's law. So let us discuss more about this article from the prelims point of view. So types of pardons. In the case of India, we have 6 types of pardons. First one is pardon, second one is reprieves, third is respite and remission. Then we have suspension, and the 6th is commutation. So first, pardon means, the person will be absolutely forgiven. Means hereafter he will be completely free. And then we will see what is this remission and commutation. Remission refers to reduction in the severity of a punishment. For example, if a person got convicted for 14 years, then considering his good behavior inside the prison, his punishment will be reduced to 7 years or 10 years. And then we have the commutation. Commutation means replacement of a punishment with a mild punishment. For example, replacement of harsh punishment with a mild punishment. That is, if a person got death penalty, then his death penalty will be replaced with a life sentence. So what is the difference between this reprieves, respite and suspension? These 3 terms refers to almost a similar thing, which means reprieves, which means temporary halting the execution of the punishment. For example, it will be done during the time of legal, if there is any legal issue or for any legal review. And respite means it is also refers to temporary halting of the punishment, but based on humanitarian ground. For example, if the convict is a woman and if she is pregnant, and if the convict is if he is having some health issue, then considering such grounds, such humanitarian grounds, this respite will be implemented. And then we have the suspension. Suspension refers to temporary, that also means temporary halting of the punishment, but the scope of the suspension is broader than the reprieves and respite. And what are the applicable cases? In the case of President of India, he can give pardon to the offences under the union laws, which means the violation of laws under the sender's jurisdiction, and then he can give pardon for court-martial cases related to the military offences, and then he has the commuting power in the case of death sentence, which means in replacing the harsh punishment with the mild punishment. What are the process behind the clemency? So first is the President has to act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The Article 72 of the Indian Constitution empowers the President to grant pardon, but he cannot do it alone. He cannot act arbitrarily. He has to act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, and that is mentioned in the Article 74 clause 1 of the Indian Constitution. And in the case of India, if the judiciary found that the clemency is arbitrary or irrational, then the judiciary can review the pardon. For example, in the best case is the Maruram versus Union of India 1980. Note this case. This will be useful in your mains as well as in your prelims. And this was a landmark judgment in the judicial history of India. So in this case, 2 questions were raised. First one, we know about CRPC, that is Criminal Procedure Code, right? According to this Criminal Procedure Code, there is a section that 433A, and according to this section, if a person got convicted for severe punishments, for example for murder, then he has to spend at least 14 years before being considered as for remission or pardon. And the second question raised in this case was whether the power to grant pardon or clemency is independent, which means if the President is the President independent from the executive control. The Supreme Court of India answered for both questions. So here regarding the section 433A of the CRPC, the court said that the CRPC is a statutory law, while Article 72 is a constitutional law. Therefore, constitutional law is superior than the statutory law. And in the case of in the second question, the court said that the President of India as well as the governors of the state are bound to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers in the center and the state respectively. That means they cannot act arbitrarily. Coming to the certain difference between the Indian President and the United States President regarding the matter of pardon, First is the source of power. In the beginning, I mentioned Article 72 of the Indian Constitution grants power to the Indian President, while Article 2, Section 2, and Clause 1 of the United States Constitution grants power to the United States President. And the scope of or the application, it is applicable in union laws, court martial, and a death sentence, while in the case of USA, it is applicable only in the federal offenses. And preemptive pardon, which means giving pardon even before charging the case. But in the case of India, we don't have that. We have only the pardon in the post conviction. But in the case of USA, the United States President can give pardon to a person even before being charged. And coming to the state offenses, in the case of India, the governor has the authority under Article 161 of the Constitution, while in the case of United States, the president's power is not applicable here. There also we have state governors. And discretion. In the case of India, the president has to act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, while in the case of United States, the president has independence to give pardon. He is completely independent from the external influence, and he is not even subject to judicial matter. And the next is judicial review. In the case of India, the pardon or the clemency is subject to the judicial review, but in the case of United States, it is not subject to the judicial review. The example is Ex parte Garland case 1866. So what is this case? So we know that the Civil War, right, the American Civil War between 1861-65. So in the Civil War, there were two factions inside in the United States, that is Confederacy and Union. So there was a person called Augustus H. Garland. He was a senator from Arkansas, and he was a lawyer too, but he was a part of Confederacy. And we know what happened after the war. After the war, the Union got victory, and unfortunately Abraham Lincoln died towards the end of the war, and his position was succeeded by Andrew Johnson. But Andrew Johnson, the Union Union member, granted pardon to this Confederacy member, that is Augustus H. Garland. But one thing, he was banned from practicing in the federal court, and this became an issue in the judiciary of America. And in that case, the judiciary of America or the Supreme Court of America said that the scope of issuing pardon of the United States President is broad, and that means even the judiciary cannot review it, and still they are following that system. And the impact of pardon in the case of India, removes the punishment but does not erase guilt. For example, there are certain loopholes too in the case of pardoning power of the president. We know that, imagine there is a scenario, two political parties, political party A, political party B, and this year the political party A is in power, and the political members of this political party B committed some crime and they got convicted. Imagine that is a severe crime. And what happens after the next election? The political party B will be coming to power and the political party A will become opposition. So they will be forming the government. So the Council of Ministers, the members of this Council of Ministers will be from political party B. So they can advise the President of India. So there is a loophole in the pardoning power in the Indian context. Definitely there is a loophole in the America too. So even though the pardon is removing the punishment, it does not erase the guilt because of this loophole. And that is same in the case of America also. So in this article, we discussed the difference of pardoning power between United States President and Indian President. Based on our understanding, try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which of the following is not a feature of the pardoning power of the President of India under Article 72? Option A, it applies to punishment for offences under union laws. Option B, it can be exercised for death sentences. Option C, it extends to the state level offences. And option D, it requires the advice of the Council of Ministers. The correct answer is option B, it extends to the state level offences. No, actually in the state, the power is given to the governor under Article 161 of the Constitution. So option C is the correct option, but it is a wrong statement. Number of inoperative accounts under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. We know that financial inclusion is a need of our present day, right? It is very essential to ensure the social welfare as well as the financial welfare of the people, because it will build confidence in the society. At the same time, it will also ensure equality. And we know that it is not a national goal, it is an international goal. We talk about sustainable development goals, right? And it is fixed to be achieved by 2030. And goal number 8 and 10 of this SDG goals are talking about financial inclusion. And in India, we launched this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana in the year 2014 to ensure the financial inclusion. So before that, what is meant by financial inclusion? Financial inclusion refers to access to the financial services simply. It can be credit facility, it can be banking facility, it can be digital financial infrastructure, or it can be access to proper insurance. And yesterday we talked about an insurance policy launched by the LIC, right? Bima Sakhi Yojana, which is working towards to ensure the the financial inclusion, expansion of insurance, and the empowerment of the women. And that scheme is also working similar like the Pradhan Mantri Yojana, because both are working towards the same goals, almost the same goals. And this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was a successful scheme, and as a part of the scheme we opened nearly 54.03 crore bank accounts in India. But unfortunately, what we recently found that out of this 54 crore, nearly 11 crore accounts are remaining inoperative, which raises severe questions, regarding the sustainability and proper awareness regarding a government policy. So based on this article, let us discuss more about the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Like I mentioned, it was launched in the year 2014. The aim of this scheme is to ensure achieve the financial inclusion for all, especially with a special focus on low-income groups and the rural areas. And the other objectives of this scheme are universal access to the banking services, which means it is working towards to ensure that in every household there will be at least one bank account. And the second, it is working on raising financial literacy, which means raising awareness regarding the financial transactions, digital facilities, banking facilities, credit facilities, and new credit schemes, and importance of insurance. And then it is another benefit of this Jan Dhan Yojana is direct benefit transfers, which means the subsidies and other benefits from the government will be directly transferred to the bank accounts of the account holders. So this will ensure transparency. At the same time, it will reduce the leak. And then insurance and the pension coverage. So yesterday I mentioned about the article. Yesterday I mentioned about the scheme, that is the Bima Sakhi Yojana. Please watch yesterday's newspaper analysis. You will be understanding that scheme too. It is also working towards expanding the insurance coverage. And here the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is also working towards insurance and expanding the pension coverage. And what are the key features of this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana? First is key feature is basic savings bank deposit account. So as per this, if a person opens bank account under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, then there is no need to maintain a minimum balance in that account. For example, if you take open a bank account in a private bank, you have to keep a certain amount as a minimum balance. In certain banks it can be 2,000 rupees, or in certain banks it can be 5,000 rupees, or even it can be 10,000 rupees, and it is not affordable for everyone, right? For example, in India, the middle class people are working for just 15 to 25,000 per month. So therefore it is not possible for them to keep a minimum balance of 10,000 or 5,000 in their bank account. But in the bank account opened under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, there is no need to maintain a minimum balance. And if you are keeping savings in that deposits in that account, then you will be getting interest according to your savings. And then availability of or issue of the RuPay debit card, and that can be used for digital transaction and ATM withdrawal. And then the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana provides an accident insurance coverage up to 2 lakh rupees. And the next important facility is the overdraft facility up to 10,000 rupees after 6 months of opening the bank account. What is meant by overdrafting facility? So in the beginning I mentioned about minimum balance in an account, right? You have to keep a particular amount as the minimum balance in your account. But if there is no minimum balance in your account, if that account balance went negative, but still you can get cash from the account, and that can under this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana you can get up to 10,000 rupees if there is any emergency under this overdraft. And the next benefit is the direct benefit transfer. Like I mentioned, the government benefits, other income from the government will be transferred directly to your bank account. For example, the subsidies under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, or the income under the MG Narega scheme. So this will ensure transparency, accountability, at the same time will reduce the leakage. And what are the achievements of this major achievements of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana? It boosted the digital transactions and access to the credit facilities in India, and we successfully opened over 50 crore bank accounts in India. And out of this 50 crore bank accounts, 55% of the bank accounts are operated by or holded by women. And then rural reach, that means we ensured the expansion of the insurance policy and penetration of digital transaction at the same time. And the next is rural reach, that is significant penetration of insurance policy and the banking facility in the remote and rural area. So these are the major achievements of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So now we are going to discuss the prelims practice question. So in this topic we discussed what is the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, what is the objective of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, what are the key benefits or the features of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and what are the important achievements of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So based on our understanding, answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which ministry implements the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana? Option A, Ministry of Rural Development. Option B, Ministry of Finance. Option C, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And option D, Ministry of Labor and Employment. The answer will be option B, Ministry of Finance, because the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is working towards financial inclusion and it is dealing with the banking and insurance. So definitely the guess will be right. The answer is option B. Yes, the answer is option B. Now we will move to the next article. PM POSHAN, Center to bear additional cost of 400 crore due to food inflation. So followed by the inflation index provided by the Labor Bureau, the government announced an addition of 400 crore to this Pradhan Mantri POSHAN considering the food inflation. And we know that the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN plays an important role in ensuring the nutrition to the children. And under the scheme, the schools, especially the government and the government aided schools, are providing one-day meal to children. And at present, nearly 11 crore children are getting benefit under the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN. And the distribution is happening through 10 lakh government and government aided schools. So in this background, let us discuss more about the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme. Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme, the POSHAN refers to Prime Minister's overarching scheme for holistic nourishment, and the policy is implemented by the Ministry of Education through the Department of School Education and Literacy, and beneficiaries under the scheme are students from class 1 to 8 in government and government aided schools, and children in Balavadiga will also receive benefit if the Balavadiga is attached to the preschool. And coming to the objectives of the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN, improving the nutrition status, encouraging school attendance, and enhancing concentration and learning. Improving nutrition status, for example, the one-day meal will be will be a source of multiple nutrition, because it will have a protein, and at the same time it will also ensure enough calorie. And we have a diversified source of nutrition in that food, for example, fortified rice, millet, and pulses. And coming to the next, that is encouraging school attendance. That is, if we provide a food through the school, then definitely we can ensure attendance of children from marginalized and remote areas. And enhancing the concentration and learning. For example, if you are lacking folic acid in your body, then you will be facing difficulty in concentration and learning, like in the case of anemia. So through providing a nutrition rich food, we can reduce such problems and enhance the concentration and learning in the children. And coming to the food norms under the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN, in the primary level, we are ensuring distribution of, we are ensuring 450 calorie of energy and 12 gram protein per meal. In the case of upper primary, per serving, we will ensure 700 calorie of energy and 20 gram of protein. And coming to the achievements and the monitoring under the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN, and it achieved 100% fortified rice distribution. Fortified rice is an important source of variety of nutrition, and under this POSHAN we successfully ensured 100% distribution of this fortified rice, replacing the custom milled rice, and improved the school enrollment and the better health outcomes. For example, we ensured attendance from marginal communities. That is, like I mentioned, nearly 11 crore students are getting benefits under the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN. And for monitoring, and that is to ensure the transparency and accountability of the distribution of the meal, we have a portal called the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN Miss Portal. And coming to the nutrition status in India, so first we will take the source from the National Family Health Survey 5. So according to the National Family Health Survey 5, there is a reduction in the stunting refers to lack of height to the age. For example, if a child is 10 years old, then he should have at least 120 centimeters. So like that, in every age there is a particular height is needed, which is an essential indicator of a person's health. And according to the National Family Health Survey 5, there is a reduction in stunting from 38% to 35%. And the Family Health Survey 5 also recorded an increasing number of institutional birth, which is very essential for maternal and neonatal health and benefits. It is the next is a setback, that is a rising anemia prevalence. That is, there is a rise from 58% to 67%. Coming to the state of food security and nutrition in India, we have made significant progress in reducing undernourishment, but still there are certain problems. For example, disparities in access to the nutritious food. Even though we have various schemes and the important acts like Food Security Act, National Food Security Act 2013, still the disparities is persisting in access to nutritious food, and that is due to the problems like inflation, lack of income, unemployment. We have to solve all these problems to ensure a holistic development. Then only we can resolve problems like malnutrition. But still, the disparity in access to the nutritious food is persisting in India. And in India, we have a prevalence of child wasting around 19%. Child wasting means lack of weight to the height. For example, if a person is 170 centimeter, then he should have at least 55 kilogram to 70 kilogram. And if he is going below that, then that person is undernourished. And note that this child wasting, this stunning, undernourishment and child mortality are very important indicators to calculate this global hunger index. And here we also have to note that the India's rank in global hunger index also fell comparing to the previous years. In the year 2022, our rank was 107, and in 2023 it fell to 111. So this is showing the structural issues in India to ensure the food security. And in this topic, we discussed the features of the Pradhan Mantri POSHAN scheme, and based on our understanding, try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, which of the following are the key features of the PM POSHAN scheme? Statement 1, the scheme is applicable to both government and private schools. Statement 2, food grains are supplied by the Food Corporation of India. And statement 3, it covers up to students up to class 10. Select the correct answer using the code below. Option A, 1 and 3 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, 1, 2 and 3. And option D, none of the above. The correct answer is option B, 2 only. Yes, the correct answer is option B, 2 only. Statement 1 and statement 3 are incorrect. It is applicable to government and government aided schools only, not private schools. And it is covering up to class not 10, class 8. So here the statement 1 and 3 goes wrong. So the answer is option B, 2 only. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's newspaper analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And also, before leaving this channel, don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy and hit the bell icon to receive on-time update. Thank you. Have a nice day.